Hello and welcome back to our BTY channel, and this will be a video on investments. Michael and I haven't done this for a while, but today we thought we'd be getting into a bit of the property investment side of things, seeing that I've actually majored in property, so this is the degree that I've studied in, and currently also in the commercial real estate space. Though today we'll talk a bit more about individual property investments. This would not be from a company's perspective, but from what we as individuals can do. So, in this video, we'll be diving into a few different types of strategies that you can use getting into investments, seeing that we're really young and this isn't something we can afford off the bat, but this is something that we can plan ahead and look into. So today we'll be talking about property investments through easy equities, through buying your second property first, looking at buying a vacation piece of land and developing it, buying a property to rent it out, and various other things that we'll be touching on within this video. But before we get into it, Michael, welcome back to our channel. It's been a while and it's great to have you here.
Yeah, no, of course, man. We have been a little bit slack with our posting on this channel, but it's good to be back recording an episode with you, man. And yeah, this is also going back to our roots. I think our very first video was talking about investing for young people. And although this is actually the first time talking about real estate and property investment on this channel, man. So I think it is an exciting thing to delve into. And like you say, man, realistically, I mean, at our age, both of us being 22 years old, there's not a lot of people our age that are really getting into property, apart from those who might be ultra wealthy, and have, a huge amount of capital to invest in a property. But obviously, there are ways to actually go about doing that as a young person without that. And obviously, like you say, you can start to plan towards that kind of thing now, man. So I think the first thing that we can talk about, Amen, is just the kind of space that you need to be in before you actually pursue property investment. And I think one important thing to realize, and it's a little bit obvious, but obviously, if you're not aware, you definitely need to go about sorting out your credit score, because most of the time when you're buying a property, you're going to be taking out a loan. Unless you have a large amount of cash lying around, you're going to need to be taking out a loan from a bank or a firm of sorts. And so you're going to need to have a trustworthy credit score. You're going to need to be able to prove that you are someone who pays back their debts on time. And you can do that by, we've made a video before on this channel about getting your credit score up. But yeah, you can get phone contracts, you can get accounts at various different retail stores, even just getting a credit card as well will obviously get that up. And that's going to increase your chances of actually getting a loan from the bank to secure your first property investment, man. What would you say? Is there anything else that you would need to sort of do to prepare yourself to get into that space of property investment?
Yeah, so from what I've learned now is that you can go and ask your HR for what you qualify for. If this services isn't available within the company that you're working for, then you go to the banks and you apply so that you actually see what level you are at and what amount you would be able to qualify for. So this could be ranging from 500,000 to 2 million, depending on your level of income. So important is you need to have a steady income and you need to be in a job where you're working, or if you're working for yourself, you need to show that through your transactions on your bank statements that you're earning a certain amount of money. So if you're looking at buying a property that's a certain worth, then once you've got the basics and the foundation laid by looking at the amount of money that you qualify for, you can either look to get a promotion a bit later on so that you can buy that certain property for that amount, or you can actually go into a partnership where you co-own a property, or you Actually, what's a product that FNB's recently launched here in Namibia is where up to 10 people can qualify to buy one property
Yes, I
together,
saw that.
and that's also something that you can look into. Because we're looking at property from an investment side of things, we need to look at its return on investment, and also that it's bringing your income rather than you paying into it as yourself. So this is also why making sure that you're going in with the right sort of planning and seeing that the property that you will be buying is in a certain location, so that this is called the feasibility study. You look at all of the different factors that's going to be affecting this property. Is it worth going to go up in the long run? What will its value
Mm,
be?
mm.
So there's various things that you look at if you're buying this property to resell it a bit later on. Is this a market where property has always been growing, or is this a market where it's not grown, and am I going to have to look at a different location? But these are just a few things that you look at before buying these properties. One other thing that I just would like to do this is to say in this section is that you have to define the property. So as an investment property, like I've mentioned before, is this is an income producing property. And then when you're buying a property for home ownership, where you're going to be staying in the property, this is more seen as a liability, because you'll be staying in this place and it's going to be taking money out of your pocket every month.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we can continue with it. But one thing I would like to ask you first, man, is have you dwindled in property yourself, or is it something you're looking to get into?
Yeah. So funny enough, man. Obviously it's good timing with this video, but the one method that you spoke about there in terms of acquiring a property is going into it with someone else, and that's actually something that I'm doing right now. In the process of signing all the paperwork, but yeah, I've actually secured the property, gotten the bond from the bank. So what I've done is gone into property ownership with my parents. Thankfully, I'm very blessed to have them be willing to do that to sort of help me get my foot in the door in the property game. And what that allows us to do is obviously my junior software developer salary isn't going to allow me to get a bond for the home that we were looking to buy. But if you go into it, as a co-owner with someone else who obviously can, then obviously both of your salaries combined are then applying for that mortgage or that bond. And so that allowed us to get that. And the goal with that property that I'm buying, it's a local apartment in the area. And in the area that I live in Bloberg, Cape Town. And what I've noticed is that, like you said, the reason why I wanted to invest in this area is because it's an area that the value of property just keeps on going up and up. Within a few months, the value of the property has gone up, and within a few years, you should be looking at a good return from your property. So definitely a good investment from that perspective. Obviously, ensuring that all things continue in that manner. But yeah, so that's something that I'm looking to do, man. And the idea behind that would be to rent it out. First of all, like you say, man, I think I'd be very stretched thin if I had to try and pay that off by myself. So obviously, the idea is to, as soon as we get the keys, or as soon as the property is fully ready, because it's actually still being final touches being done and finished, buying it off plan or from the developer directly. We're then going to advertise and hopefully get a good tenant in who will cover the majority of the bond repayment that I have to cover every month. If there is any shortfall, then I will then pay into that. So yeah, that's a method of investing in property that I've been able to do. Again, like I said, that does take, obviously, not everyone's going to be in that situation where you have someone else to go in with, but then again, you never know until you ask around, it could be a good investment for yourself and for the other person, even if they are the one who's obviously sort of helping you to get to that stage. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, man. I wanted to ask as well if there's anything from your side. Have you been able to get into property at such a young age?
Yeah, so at I think I was about 21 years old. I also got a piece of land, and this is a piece of land that I'm looking to develop as time goes by. So this was a property that, or yeah, it's a property if it's land as well.
Mm.
So this is also a piece of land that I was able to get by paying cash for it, and this was through being able to
Yes, man.
pursue my studies with a bursary instead of paying cash, and then I use that money instead to then buy a piece of property. So what
See.
I look to do is develop on this, whether it would be for a bit of agriculture purposes, or it would be to develop this piece of land and then sell it to its next owner. This is still something that I'm looking at deciding a bit later on. But how I acquired this was also looking at the trends that was happening within Namibia. Also, that a lot of people were looking to buy plots where they could then actually go and settle when they retire. But I decided to do this a bit earlier because land is going to keep appreciating in value,
That's
and
great,
even
man.
if you don't do anything with the land, if it stays bare, it still goes up in value over time, so then you can still sell it and make a profit. Then yeah, man, this is a few ways. So it's buying to let a property and then buying a bare piece of land and
Mm.
developing. Though there's many other ways you can get into property as well, and one I would like to touch on is through Easy Equities. They've recently launched Easy Prop, where
Yeah.
you can buy a percentage of shares within a property, whether this is residential or commercial. You then say that, okay, I've got 5,000 Rand available, or I've even got 500. I'm going to buy a certain share in this property, and that share makes up a portion of the property to have a profit share. And whenever there's a rental income coming into the property, then you're going to have that certain fraction paid into your account, while this property can also be appreciating, and the value of your shares would then go up, with you even getting the benefit of having a monthly lump sum being paid into your Easy Properties account. So this is also a good way to look into it when you're not able to buy a piece of land, or you're not able to buy a rental property at first. While you're building this portfolio on Easy Properties, this can then also be used as security to later on buy a property. So this is various ways you can look into getting into the property game from a young age. And I think before we might have been like, okay, I need to have a good job first before I can get
Yeah.
into this property game. I need to be working for a certain amount of years. I'll probably only be able to do this when I'm in my late 20s or early 30s. But
Mm.
now there is actually different strategies you can use to even get into it from as young as 18, when you're able to set up an Easy Properties account, and you can then delve into these smaller investments which can accumulate over time. So that's also another thing, is that you have to start as early as possible.
Exactly, man. Yeah, no, our good old friend Easy Equities, obviously, it's really cool that they've made that feature available. And the kind of
Yeah.
what I find cool about that is just the kind of properties that they have made available for that sort
Mm.
of style of property investment. Yeah, it's like these really up and coming apartment blocks in Cape Town, is what I've seen, and
Even
throughout South
Bloberg.
Africa. Even in Bloberg, yeah, where we were born and raised, man. So yeah, no, it's really a cool thing, and I think what you mentioned there is really cool because, and that's what I saw, is that, like you say, you get that monthly rental income from that,
Mm.
and then obviously you can also then sell the share later on with that appreciation that happens over time. So that's definitely a great thing to look into because directly investing in property, as you mentioned, man, is something that is going to be difficult to do at a very young age, without the other mentioned methods that we mentioned. But that's a good way to get into it, and it's perhaps a bit more interesting than just investing in a stock. If you're really interested in property and that side of things, then it's a good thing to start learning about. One final thing that we did want to talk about here, man, was also how you can, once you do buy a property, let's say you've accumulated the funds that you need, you sorted out your credit score and everything. One strategy that you can do to also improve your chances of making an income from this property is to buy like something like a duplex or a multi-family property, a property that has multiple rooms, maybe a lot of houses. I don't know if this is just a South African term, but they call it like a granny flat, and that's sort of another property, like just on the same property, but it's another little building in that property that might have a room and a kitchen, and you can then rent that out. And what's great about that is obviously, you can be aided by the rental income that you're receiving from either renting out that room or that granny flat, as I mentioned. And that's going to greatly decrease the amount of money that you are just, and as opposed to you just covering the whole cost there, man.
That's true. And this is also where it comes in that when you are looking to buy a property, look at a property that does have the space on that earth to be able to build a granny flat yourself.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then be able to rent that out. What can also be done is, if you're looking at an investment property, buying a block of flats where you can then rent those out while also being able to stay in one of those apartments, depending on what the costs are of that certain block. What you can also do is, again, buy a plot and then build yourself a block of flats, which then can also bring an income. Though another strategy that I've recently come upon as well, that's being utilized in America and probably by others in South Africa or in Namibia, but that haven't really spoken about it openly, is where you buy your second property first. And a lot of people will be like, what? How do you buy a second property first? Because you first need a first property before you buy a second property. But what a second property refers to here is a vacation home. So let's say that you like to go to the coast, especially in Namibia, you like to go to Swakopmund, and you know that every December you're going to go and pay a certain rental amount to have a place to stay while you're there during your holiday. So what you do is then, while you are renting out in Windhoek or in Rehoboth or in Okahania, then you buy this property, which is your second home, but it's actually your vacation property, which then, when you aren't using it, you can rent it out for an income where various people can then go and stay there as a vacation.
Like an Airbnb.
What then happens here is, you put it on an Airbnb, and this then also pays for your mortgage while you have the benefit of going to stay there as a rental property. So that amount that you are going to pay for rent in December, you can then also save that certain amount of money. Lastly, bro, I also read about this on LinkedIn, where they shared that if you're looking to buy a property that's going to cost you 17,000 Rand per month as your mortgage costs, your monthly installments that you need to pay, what you can do is, for the next 10 years, stay in a modest space with your wife and your child, where you're renting for 10,000 Rand each month. You've got a decent property, it's modest, but you're renting it. Then you have to be disciplined enough to put the 7,000 Namibian dollars away into the S&P 500, where it will grow with an average of 10% each year over that 10 years. What then happens is that with the compound interest, you're able to buy your property cash after 10 years Whereas if you were going to pay the 17K mortgage, you would be paying interest as well, which is the cost for borrowing that money. Then with this interest, instead of your property being worth 2 million, now it's actually costing you 8 million to pay off this property. This isn't exact amounts, but it's just an example where then your property needs to, its value needs to go up by 400% for it to break even over that time. But if you were able to invest that 7,000, you're also going to be looking at a decent amount, and then you're buying the property that costs 2 million for the 2 million because you're not paying interest. So these are ways that we can look at with delayed gratification. And the important thing is property investment is something that you don't look at from a short-term investment perspective, but you rather look at this is a long-term investment and this is going to be of benefit to my future self.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, that interest is a killer. And that's also, why you would want to pay off your loan as fast as possible. One other thing is that, if you can, you've got your monthly repayment, but even try and pay a little bit more than that every month if you have the ability to do so. And if you maybe get like a lump sum, then put that into your mortgage or your bond again, because the faster that you pay that off, the less interest that you're gonna actually pay on the property here, man.
That's so true.
Yeah, so very cool stuff, man. Yeah, very cool, exciting things to talk about. Us as young people, we always like to say that we are thinking long term. That was also one of our very first videos, is why you should have a long term mindset as opposed to a short term mindset. So it's worth educating yourself about property now, as Daniel and I are doing, and we're still learning. And let us know what thoughts you guys have on property. Is it something that you guys are looking to get in at such a young age, or do you feel like you'd rather be putting money into crypto and forex trading at the moment? Let us know your thoughts. But we hope that you've enjoyed this conversation that Daniel and I have had today. And we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please let us know if you have any ideas or video concepts that you would like us to talk about, then put that in the comments as well. But if you did enjoy the video, subscribe to this channel, BTY, as although we've been a little bit quiet recently, we do always make this kind of high quality content, and we're always looking at ways that us as young people can become better than who we were yesterday. So join us for that. Leave a like on this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Much love from us.
Much love. Cheers.